Dr. Shade is a relationship analyst and behavioral expert, known for helping people recognize emotional manipulation, dishonesty, and unhealthy relationship patterns. Relationships are built on trust, honesty, communication, and emotional security. When those foundations begin to crack, people often sense that something is wrong long before they can fully explain it. A sudden change in behavior, emotional distance, secrecy, or manipulation can create confusion and self-doubt. Unfortunately, many individuals ignore these warning signs because they fear confrontation, rejection, or the painful possibility of betrayal. One of the most damaging forms of betrayal is discovering that someone you trusted emotionally connected with another person behind your back, especially if that person is someone close to you. In situations like these, manipulation often begins long before the truth comes out. Instead of openly admitting wrongdoing, people may use emotional tactics, deflection, and guilt to avoid accountability. Dr. Shade explains that manipulation in relationships is rarely loud or obvious in the beginning. It often hides behind ordinary conversations and subtle phrases designed to make you question your own instincts. The goal is not always to prove innocence, but to shift your focus away from suspicious behavior. The following are 10 common phrases and behaviors that can sometimes indicate emotional manipulation, dishonesty, or hidden emotional involvement with someone else. While no single phrase proves betrayal on its own, repeated patterns combined with inconsistent behavior should never be ignored. 1. You're being paranoid. This is one of the most common phrases used to dismiss concerns in relationships. Instead of calmly addressing the issue, the person immediately shifts the focus onto your reaction. Suddenly, the conversation is no longer about suspicious behavior. It becomes about your supposed overthinking. Dr. Shade describes this as a classic form of emotional deflection. When someone repeatedly labels your concerns as paranoia without offering transparency or reassurance, it can create confusion and self-doubt. Imagine noticing sudden secrecy around a phone, unexplained schedule changes, or unusual emotional distance. You bring it up respectfully, hoping for honesty, but instead hear, "You're being paranoid." Ayaway samain po kun mo bai yuai. Rather than resolving the issue, the phrase pressures you into questioning your own judgment. Healthy communication looks different. A trustworthy partner usually tries to understand why you feel uncomfortable and works toward clarity instead of immediately attacking your perception. This does not mean every suspicion is automatically correct, but repeated dismissal of valid concerns can become emotionally manipulative. Dr. Shade encourages people to trust consistent patterns rather than emotional pressure. 2. He's like a brother to me. Friendships between men and women can absolutely be healthy and genuine. However, Dr. Shade warns that overly defensive explanations about a specific person sometimes deserve closer attention. When someone repeatedly insists that another man is just like family before concerns are even fully raised, it can feel less like reassurance and more like preemptive defense. The important thing is not the label itself, but the behavior surrounding it. Does the relationship truly resemble a sibling-like friendship, or are there signs of emotional intimacy that cross boundaries? For example, constant private communication, emotional dependence, or unusual closeness may create discomfort in a relationship. Instead of dismissing those feelings instantly, healthy couples discuss boundaries openly and respectfully. Dr. Shade explains that transparency matters more than labels. Words alone cannot define loyalty. Consistent actions, honesty, and respect are what create emotional security. 3. You're just insecure. This phrase can be especially damaging because it attacks self-esteem instead of addressing the actual concern. When someone says, "You're just insecure," they may be attempting to redirect the conversation away from their own behavior. Instead of discussing what caused discomfort, the focus suddenly becomes your confidence or emotional stability. Dr. Shade points out that this tactic can silence people because nobody wants to appear weak, jealous, or controlling. As a result, many individuals stop asking important questions simply to avoid being labeled insecure. However, there is an important distinction between irrational jealousy and reacting to repeated suspicious patterns. Emotional maturity means being able to discuss concerns without insults or shame. A caring partner usually seeks reassurance and understanding, not humiliation. If someone constantly attacks your character whenever accountability is requested, the relationship may already lack healthy communication. The key is remaining calm and objective. Instead of reacting emotionally, focus on observable behavior, consistency, and whether trust is being strengthened or weakened over time. 4. Don't make this weird. This phrase often appears when someone wants to discourage further questioning. Imagine walking into a situation where the energy between your partner and another person feels unusually intimate. Perhaps there is excessive touching, flirtatious behavior, or emotional closeness that makes you uncomfortable. When you express concern, they immediately respond with, "Don't make this weird." At first glance, the statement may sound harmless, but according to Dr. Shade, it can subtly pressure you into ignoring your discomfort in order to avoid seeming dramatic or unreasonable. Healthy relationships allow room for respectful conversations about boundaries. If something genuinely feels uncomfortable, it should not automatically be dismissed. Dr. Shade explains that emotionally mature people do not shame their partners for communicating concerns. Instead, they seek understanding and work together to create mutual respect. The issue is not about controlling someone's friendships or social life. It is about whether your feelings are treated with care or immediately invalidated. 5. I don't know why you don't trust me. This phrase sounds emotional and vulnerable on the surface, but it can sometimes function as a guilt tactic. Rather than addressing specific concerns directly, the person shifts attention toward your lack of trust. Suddenly, you may feel pressured to defend yourself instead of discussing the original issue. Dr. Shade explains that trust is not maintained through emotional pressure alone. It is built through consistent transparency, honesty, and behavior that aligns with words. For example, if someone frequently hides conversations, becomes secretive, or acts inconsistently, asking for blind trust without accountability may feel manipulative. A healthy partner understands that trust grows through actions over time. They do not rely solely on emotional statements to avoid difficult conversations. This is why Dr. Shade advises people to observe patterns carefully. Repeated contradictions between words and behavior usually reveal more than emotional speeches ever will. 6. We just vibe? This phrase may sound casual, but it can sometimes reveal the beginning of emotional attachment. Dr. Shade emphasizes that emotional affairs often begin long before anything physical happens. Strong emotional connection, constant communication, inside jokes, and emotional dependency can slowly create intimacy outside the relationship. When someone repeatedly says they just vibe with another person, especially someone within your social circle, it is important to evaluate the depth of that connection. Are they sharing emotional energy, personal secrets, or attention that should primarily belong within the relationship? Are they prioritizing that connection over emotional closeness with you? The concern is not harmless friendship itself. The concern is emotional imbalance and shifting loyalty. Many people ignore these signs because nothing official has happened yet. However, emotional distance often develops gradually, making it difficult to recognize until the relationship is already damaged. Dr. Shade encourages honest conversations about emotional boundaries before resentment and secrecy grow stronger. 7. He gets me in a way no one else does. This statement often signals deep emotional attachment. According to Dr. Shade, emotional intimacy is one of the strongest forms of human connection. When someone begins feeling emotionally understood by another person more than by their own partner, the relationship may already be in dangerous territory. This does not necessarily confirm physical betrayal, but it does suggest emotional investment elsewhere. People naturally seek understanding and connection, especially during periods of emotional dissatisfaction. However, instead of addressing problems within the relationship directly, some individuals begin turning to someone else for emotional comfort. Over time, this can create emotional replacement. The outside person slowly becomes the primary source of validation, support, and intimacy. Dr. Shade explains that many people make the mistake of competing for attention when this happens. They try harder, beg for affection, or attempt to win back emotional connection. But healthy relationships cannot survive through competition. Mutual effort and emotional honesty are necessary from both sides. 8. It's not what it looks like. This phrase usually appears when someone is caught in a suspicious situation. Perhaps you discover inappropriate messages, witness unusual closeness, or hear concerning information from someone else. Instead of calmly explaining the situation, the immediate response becomes, "It's not what it looks like." I endor in nor in so way. Dr. Shade explains that innocent situations are generally clarified through straightforward explanations and consistent behavior. Panic, excessive defensiveness, and vague excuses often create even more doubt. This does not mean every misunderstanding confirms betrayal. However, when questionable behavior repeatedly requires dramatic explanations, trust naturally weakens. The most important thing is staying calm and focusing on facts rather than emotional chaos. Dr. Shade advises people not to become trapped in endless arguments or manipulation. Observe patterns carefully. Consistency and transparency usually